It's best to approach family succession early, in a calm, structured manner, allowing everyone in the family an opportunity to share their hopes and expectations. Advice from professionals can help find the best way forward for the family and the business.
My name is Margo McGill and I'm an agricultural solicitor. I work with Lockharts Solicitors in Ayr. I've been a partner there now for 10 years. I head up the agricultural and estates team, which I really enjoy. I am also an accredited specialist in agricultural law, so I've been accredited by the Law Society as a specialist in agricultural law now for over 5 years. That's something I'm very proud of, because there's actually only about 20 of us across the whole of Scotland, and I'm the only one in Ayr. So agricultural law is very much my bag, and that's what I really enjoy. We farm here at Shackle Hill Farm at Mossblowing. We purchased Shackle Hill in 2004. It was initially a beef rearing unit, and myself and my husband both had other jobs, but it was in 2016, December 2016, we decided to put on a dairy of our own. So we have installed 2 A3 Lely robots, and we now milk 100 cows through our 2 robots. And we have, I think, maybe in the region of about 200 young stock followers. And we farm in total about 220 acres. So yes, it's a lovely spot. We enjoy it. We like it here in sunny Ayrshire.
So what is succession planning, and what does it mean?
Stripped back to its basics, succession planning basically means that you are planning for your future. You are putting the building blocks in place which are there effectively to secure the future of you and your family business. And it's just the very basics of making sure that you know there is a route or a forward path for your business and your farming enterprise, and that you've thought about it and you've planned for how you wish that enterprise to be taken forward. Succession planning is key for farm businesses, primarily because I always think farming is a unique industry, because you are very often working with not only 1 but 2 or sometimes 3 generations of the same family. So working with your father and very often your grandfather, and therefore it is key to make sure that there is a direction amongst the family members in terms of how the business is going to flow, and therefore key that succession planning happens at an early stage. And very importantly as well, because of the capital value of the assets which are tied up in farming. I mean, the values of the farms, the value of the farming businesses. So it's key that there is a secure future for these assets. And also, very pragmatically, from a banking perspective, because very often the banks, if they're going to continue to renew your finance on an annual basis, they like to know that there is continuity and there's a young team coming on behind father and mother. It's never too early to sit down and have the chats about succession planning. Succession planning is so key at any stage. People sometimes think it's not something you should think about until you're a bit older and thinking about putting a will or a power of attorney in place. But actually communicating and sitting down round the kitchen table at an early stage can just pay off so much, because if you involve the younger generation at an early stage and have discussions about where you want the business to go, it's amazing the opportunities that can just come out of that in terms of, well, you maybe want to expand, you maybe want to diversify, and therefore there's lots of ideas and opportunities that can actually come out of succession planning. So the earlier you have these discussions, the better it is for everyone and indeed the business.
Succession planning can be quite a daunting conversation to a lot of people, and it might be in a lot of people's minds. How would you recommend starting the conversation with your family?
Succession planning can be extremely daunting, particularly for the older generation, because I think they sometimes get concerned that they're essentially going to be put out to grass. They're no longer required, but their input is actually exceptionally valuable, because they've got all these years of experience and they've seen it all before, and they can add a lot of value to any discussion. But the key thing is to sit down round the kitchen table, keep it nice and informal, rather than having a daunting meeting in a solicitor's office or accountant's office. Even initially can be a bit daunting. Sit down round the kitchen table and just start from the very basic premises of this is what we have, this is where we are, and what, would you like to achieve, where do you want to be, and make sure you've got the whole family that are involved in the business there, sons or daughters, because nowadays obviously the daughters are just as key in many farming businesses, and make sure everybody sits down and you actually have a discussion about what the younger generation want to achieve, what the older generation want to achieve, and sometimes actually quite surprisingly they are quite close in terms of what they want. Clearly there are some instances where there can be a bit of divergence, but that's why it's important to communicate so that can all be discussed and explored at an early or as early a date as possible, and then hopefully a solution can be worked through by just adding advice from third parties or whoever, but just key to communicate.
Would you recommend bringing in a third party, like a professional like yourself?
Yes, I would definitely recommend bringing in a third party advisor. Obviously, I think I'm going to say that I'm a solicitor, that's what I do, but it can add so much value to the actual discussions that the family have. We are professionals and therefore we have our own key skills that we can add to the discussions in terms of, well, this is the legal position if you want to do X or Y, this is how you set up a partnership, this is how you set up a company, so we can provide our expertise to the meeting. Likewise, in that kind of situation, I would also very much recommend not only having an agricultural solicitor, somebody that's well versed on agricultural law, but you also have your accountant present at that meeting as well, because they're very good at advising on the tax implications, any capital gains implications, entrepreneur relief, when's maybe the key time to actually think about father taking a step back or retiring, and therefore the joint advice, legally and accounting wise, is key. Likewise, advice from agricultural consultants is very important as well, because you need to get a flavour for where the business is at financially, structure wise. It's always good to take advice. You don't need to follow the advice, but it's good to take advice, because then you're as well informed as you possibly can be before you potentially make decisions which will have a very lasting effect on you, your family and your business.
One part of succession planning is creating a will. So what is a will?
A will is a very important document. A will reflects your testamentary intention. So a will basically sets down exactly how you wish to leave your worldly goods. So it is very important, because without a will, it's the law of intestacy which would apply. So that is set down in law how your assets would be passed to the next generation if you don't have a will. So a will is exceptionally key, particularly for farmers, because you want to be sure in your own mind exactly how your farming assets are being left. So a will, I cannot emphasise enough how important it is. Even just the basics, in your will, the first thing you do is appoint your executors. Now, that is key, because if you don't leave a will, the law doesn't presume that your wife will be your executor. You have to go to court to get your executor appointed. That takes additional stress and money, adds timescale. So it is exceptionally important to have a will in place. It's never too early to bring somebody like myself in, especially for succession planning, and indeed if you're thinking of wills, because from a farming perspective, a will can be even more important than normal, because it's key with farming families that you know where the farm is being left, and your estate, it cannot be subject to it could be subject to a legal rights claim, but you want to make sure that it's covered so that there is no chance of the assets going in the manner other than which you want them to go. So that the key thing there is making sure that you check when you're doing a will and you're a farmer, that you check how the assets are held. So if the asset is held by the farmer as an individual, then that is entirely fine. The concerns sometimes are if the farm is held as a partnership or by the company, because if you have a disgruntled child or member of the family that doesn't accept what's in their will, then they can claim their legal right in the deceased estate, and that right entitles them to claim on the movable assets. Now, the movable assets of any estate are usually just money, cash, stock and machinery. But if you hold the family farm in a partnership or a company, then a share in that partnership or company is a movable asset. So it essentially allows a disgruntled beneficiary or disgruntled child to claim a share of the farm if it's not held properly. So it is exceptionally key for farmers to ensure when they carry out the succession planning process, preparing a will, etc., that they check how the assets are held.
So what do farmers nearing retirement need to think about?
Well, if you're a farmer nearing retirement, you need to think basically on your business structure. What is the structure of your business at that point? Have you already got your sons or daughters even into the business? Is there are there successors there willing to come on board and take on the business? If they are, then are you essentially just going to step back and then basically pass on your capital? So very key to take tax advice at that point as well, just to understand the most efficient ways of being able to pass on the capital and indeed assets to the next generation. And also whether you wish to do so in life or in death, because there are different tax implications for doing it, passing on the farm in life and death. And essentially at the present time, passing the farm on in death is actually the most tax efficient way to do it, because you get the benefit of the inheritance tax relief, your agricultural property relief and business property relief. But a lot of people prefer to transfer it during life because they know the next generation, it's firmly within their scope. They've got the confidence then that the asset is theirs and they can take pride and then take the asset forward. So yeah, a lot of different issues to consider when you are thinking about retiring. If there isn't the immediately obvious succession path there, then your options are always such, you can sell the family farm, or indeed you could rent the family farm out. One thing which is becoming, or I know it's being promoted, I was going to say it's becoming more popular, but maybe with larger scale farms, is contract farming, so that if you don't have an immediate successor, then you can contract farm. That's again popular. But it just depends on the immediate line of succession, and that's why it can be very key at that point to take advice from your advisors in terms of what your different options are, what the market's like for potentially selling. Just now it's a great market, honestly, that we've not seen values like this for years. But it's important to take advice from your advisors at that point, both legal, accounting and farm consultancy.
Having constructive discussions about succession can be a weight off the shoulders, improve well-being and encourage future discussions about the farm business. For more information, please visit fas.scot.